What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and we have something interesting to talk about today. So one of the more simple storylines of this Dallas Cowboys offseason has been how they have handled the situation with tight end Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz was on an expiring contract, and the Cowboys couldn't necessarily get anything done as far as a long-term deal was concerned, so they placed the franchise tag on Dalton Schultz. We've seen this story many times before. Now, the story has generally been a bit dramatic as far as the franchise tag has gone with the Cowboys, at least considering contract negotiations. Dak Prescott, DeMarcus Lawrence, even Des Bryant went all the way down to the 11th hour. But it was pretty straightforward with Dalton Schultz. Cowboys placed the tag on him, and shortly after he signed that tag, locking him in for the 2022 season. That figure, by the way, is just south of $11 million, and the tight end market kind of lends itself towards placing the franchise tag on players. We've talked about this many different times. So all this seemed pretty straightforward, as mentioned, but on Monday, the story changed just a little bit. NFL Network reported that Dalton Schultz is set to skip the remaining portion of voluntary OTAs amid frustrations with the Dallas Cowboys concerning his contract. Now, if you're Dalton Schultz, let's put ourselves in his shoes and his representation's shoes for a moment. You obviously want a new deal. You obviously want a long-term deal. You obviously want a lot of guaranteed money. Who doesn't want all of these things? But you obviously signed the franchise tag, which is what makes this situation very interesting. Normally, if players are under the franchise tag or have been franchise tagged and they want to negotiate a long-term deal, they want to establish as much leverage as possible, they do not sign that tag. We talked about those situations with Dak and DeMarcus Lawrence and Des Bryant. You take things all the way to mid-July and you maximize that opportunity. We did not see that from Dalton Schultz. He signed the tag, which seemingly forfeited any sort of leverage that he may have had against the Cowboys in this particular set of contract negotiations. But when he signed that tag, he would probably argue, or his representation would probably argue, they were not aware of the ever-changing market, right? That's always the case. And for what it's worth, about a week and a half ago, the Cleveland Browns gave a new deal to the tight end who they placed the franchise tag on, and David Njoku. It is a 4-year deal. Almost $57 million, comes out to $14 million per year for David Njoku, with $28 million guaranteed. So if you're Dalton Schultz's camp, you've probably seen the David Njoku deal. You've had time to kind of sit on it, to dwell on it, to think about it, and you're thinking, that's the market. Let's go out and get the market. But the problem is that while this is true, if you're Dalton Schultz's representation, you have already signed the franchise tag. Again, that's what makes this situation a little bit different than any that we've seen in years past as Cowboys fans. And so this is kind of the last move, so to speak, that Dalton Schultz has to play. The Cowboys have a mandatory minicamp beginning next Tuesday, June 14th, and so he has to show up to that because, again, it's mandatory. These activities right now are all voluntary, and so this is simply Dalton's way of kind of voicing his displeasure with the situation. I don't read this as tense. I don't read this as the Cowboys are wrong or Dalton's wrong. I just think it's kind of what it is. For what it's worth, Dalton was asked about the franchise tag situation at the end of May when all these activities sort of began, and here's what he had to say.
I mean, again, dude, I let my agent kind of handle all that business, and like right now I'm just focused on the OTAs, man.
So again, Dalton's kind of like, hey, I'm letting my agent handle it, and we could assume maybe that Dalton's representation said, you know what, Dalton, the best move for you right now is not to show up. It's, again, this is really the only thing he can do because Dalton has signed that tag. He has to show up to mandatory things, and so it's just something that has to happen. I know we're lining up, believe me, to criticize the Cowboys and talk about how they have failed and this is another mistake. And it's true that they don't want to overpay players, but Dalton Schultz is a little bit of a different situation. He plays a position that is not necessarily one that you want to pay a lot of money to unless you have one of the truly elite players. And obviously Dalton can still blossom into an elite tight end, but right now he doesn't line up with the George Kittles and Travis Kelce's of the world. And so you have to kind of weigh that all out and weigh it together the way the Cowboys are. And so this is just business, really, is what it is and what it comes down to. And so ultimately, if you want to be positive about this, Dalton gets to play the one move that he really has before mandatory things start up. The Cowboys, in turn, get an opportunity with starters. We saw last week during OTAs how Tyron Smith sat out for a moment, so that offered Tyler Smith an opportunity to play left tackle with the starters. So this offers an opportunity for younger players, younger tight ends on the Cowboys roster to experience time with the ones, to experience time with the starters. Talking about the Sean McEwens, the Jake Fergusons. I mean, if the Cowboys plan on moving on from Dalton Schultz in 2023, and it would stand to reason that they have at least strongly considered that option, given the fact that they only placed the franchise tag on him, development for the younger players is going to be extremely important. And so this isn't really a dramatic sort of thing. It's just sometimes business gets in the way of stuff. So my name is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa, on TikTok at rj.ochoa. You can email me rj.ochoa@sbnation.com if that is more your speed. Please subscribe right here to the Blog of the Boys YouTube channel. We have things coming out all the time because we never stop. The Dallas Cowboys never stop. It may be June, but soon enough it will be time to head on out to training camp, and that is a very exciting thing. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time.